Rob, I want to talk to you first about your report when it comes to pay disparity. It's a familiar debate when it comes to men and women's sports. Just lay out the difference between the pay and the prize money when it comes to male footballers and female footballers.
Well, FIFA have increased the prize money for this World Cup from $30 million in France to $110 million. But the men's teams in Qatar last year got to split $440 million. So there's a huge disparity in the prize money, which FIFA in part blames on sponsors and the broadcasters for not putting enough money into the Women's World Cup yet. And FIFA have committed by 2027 for there to be pay parity between the Women's and Men's World Cups. Of course, the Men's World Cup is growing even further. That'll be 48 teams in 2026, while the Women's World Cup will be 32 teams. So there is that gulf, although for the first time, FIFA are putting in place guaranteed income for players, although it's going to go to the federations first. It's not going to be paid directly to the players.
Female players are paid, around a quarter of what male players are? How much will a female player earn from this World Cup?
Well, there is this guaranteed income from FIFA for the first time for players, although it is going via the federations. So a player who was part of a team that went out in the group stage will earn $30,000 each. Up to the champions, they'll each get $270,000 each. So just in prize money terms alone, in terms of the payouts for players, the England players and the Colombian players who have reached the quarterfinals will each get about £70,000 each. And that is still more than perhaps the salaries in the Women's Super League each year. Certainly, FIFA found in its most recent sort of assessment that the annual salaries for players globally can still be as low as $14,000 because there aren't many professional leagues around the world. So that is still the challenge. And it has its origins in the fact that many of the longer established successful men's teams didn't necessarily put the funding into women's programs, which means the financing hasn't been there. So it's still very much catch up. And let's not forget that England banning women's football for 50 years till 1971 was something that cascaded around the world, and resources were denied to women's teams, for instance, here in Australia too. And that had a knock-on effect. It meant that actually the growth of the women's game was held back for so long.
And Lucy, is this something that players talk about, the disparity between pay, prize money, treatment when it comes to female players and male players?
No, not necessarily. I think obviously we're aware of the conversations within the media, specifically around tournaments. I think these do tend to crop up more, and this one being very much so in the public eye. But between us, I think it's always business as usual. You know, you try not to distract yourself with those types of conversations off the pitch when you're having your downtime or you're spending time with your team.
Let's look ahead to Saturday and England's quarter-final match against Colombia. Lucy, to you first. How's the team feeling about it?
I think they'll be really looking forward to it. I've spoken to a couple of them. And surprisingly, actually, during the game against Nigeria, felt very calm, felt very in control. And specifically when it went to penalties, were very comfortable. So I think I guess there's that sort of feeling around the camp heading into a big game. You know you're in a good position. People are not panicking or worrying. They're sticking to the process and looking forward. And I think that's what it's always been with under Serena. It's very much process driven, focusing on the next game, the next day, the next training session. And she doesn't get too high nor too low either. So it's a very good sort of base to take how you should approach the day and the game off.
And obviously England won't have Lauren James for this quarter-final match. Have you spoken to Lauren since the red card against Nigeria? How's she doing? And how's the team feeling about playing without her?
We're all a close-knit group. And the people that she's close with, I'm close with. So I know that she'll be in really good hands. And I think it shows the sort of strength of the group that obviously going through a slight adversity, even when during the match she went off the pitch, we stayed strong, we stood together. And so I think that looking forward, it's just another opportunity for someone else. We won the Euros before, obviously, when Lauren wasn't featuring. So it's probably an opportunity for someone, the likes of Ella Toon, who had a wonderful Euros last year coming off the bench. I'm hoping that perhaps it's maybe her time to shine.